Are you coming too, Seki-san? Another club member asked me, while we did some light cleaning and put the music room's desks back in place. Why? Are you going somewhere? We finished early today, so I was thinking maybe we could grab something light to eat, right? She turned to another girl, who nodded in silent agreement. I did turn them down last time, I thought. Maybe I'll come along then, I said aloud, and then checked the time. I have to catch my train though, so I might need to leave early. Yeah, that's fine. My classmates and I put the desks back into position. I brushed dust off my hands and sighed. At some point, bringing money to school had stopped being a bad thing. I turned my gaze out the window, where the clear skies from the afternoon still persisted. With the strong sunlight lasting later into the day, it felt like the curtain of the season was steadily rising. Summer would arrive before long. So you're going too? Ah! I exclaimed in surprise when a voice spoke to me out of the blue. At some point, Senpai had appeared over my shoulder. I hadn't noticed her approaching me at all, so it felt almost as though she had grown right out of the floor. I never would have expected that. I thought you were kind of stuffy. What kind of impression did you have of me exactly? Although, I might have been a little too straight-laced in grade school. I see. So you are going? Senpai? She nodded, and then peered at me with innocent eyes, unbefitting of an older student. Is there room for one more? You mean you, Senpai? I realized that my eyes had gone wide at the unexpected request. Is that a no? No, I just wasn't expecting it. See? You got the wrong idea about me too. J'accuse. She pointed at me. I wasn't surprised about that. It was just that I hadn't expected an upper-class man to want to hang out with younger students. I always assumed it was normal for students to group together based on their years. And judging by the way things normally went, that assumption wasn't wrong. So maybe it wasn't unexpected, so much as a little unusual. It's fine with me, but I'll have to ask the others. Senpai's face lit up. Great, thanks. It wasn't even set in stone yet, but she looked cheerful as she went back to cleaning up. She was going because I was going. But why? I had met a girl like that once before, but this couldn't be like that. Yusuke-senpai said that she also wanted to go. When I told the classmate from earlier that, her eyes went wide. Senpai? I know, I didn't expect it either. Everyone's just full of surprises today. Yeah, I thought she was too proper for that. She's kind of easygoing though, my classmate weighed in. I agreed with her impression. Normally, when an upper-class man mingled with underclassmen, the underclassmen ended up feeling self-conscious. But there was something carefree about Yusuke-senpai, so perhaps it wouldn't be an issue. If it had been the president or someone authoritative, my classmates would probably have been miserable. So, in a rare turn of events, we ended up hanging out after school with an upper-class man among us. Because I always walked from the school gate straight to the station, going in a different direction almost gave me the illusion that my vision was expanding. The town in the daylight, the people coming and going endlessly, the unfamiliar scenery. More likely than not, I would end up going through junior high and high school without knowing much about anything outside of the school. My stomping grounds were more limited than when I had been in tons of lessons as an elementary school student. Thinking of it that way, I couldn't help feeling that the 30-minute train ride to school really was too long. but it seemed as though most adults were always traveling between work and home. So maybe that was just how life went. Senpai was walking beside me. I looked at her from the corner of my eye and realized that our eyes were more or less at the same level. The great difference between our heights had shrunk quite a bit since I first joined the club. As usual, hot steam was rising from the front of the manju seller's store on the corner. Along with my classmates, we turned that corner, crossed the street, and headed to a fast food place on the right side of the road. It was the same place we had gone to last time. The place used to be small, but they had remodeled and expanding the seating to the second floor at some point, or so a classmate who lived nearby had told me. As we approached, I looked casually at Senpai. She had a timid look on her face, and her eyes were shifting around, as if distracted by some anxiety. Is something the matter? I asked, thinking that she might have forgotten something at school. Oh, no, it's nothing. Nothing at all. She shook her head, evading my question. It didn't seem like it was actually nothing, but I walked into the fast food place for the time being. If she was worried about something, I could ask her about it once we sat down. It really didn't feel like how you were supposed to treat an upper-class man at all, which I admit amused me a little. It wasn't even July yet, but the air conditioning inside the restaurant was already on. At least half of the seats on either wall, leading up to the counter in the back, were taken. A group of students in different uniform were going up the stairs to the second floor. I had come here countless times, but my ears could never get used to how lively it sounded. Wondering how Senpai was doing, I looked to the side. Senpai? For some reason, she had shrunk, ducking her head down low. She glanced around as though she was frightened. Sayaka-chan... She beckoned me closer, even though she was right next to me. How much closer was she expecting me to get? Could you lend me an ear? She requested in a tiny voice. Huh? Obediently, I brought my ear closer to her. Her voice shook anxiously as she leaned in to whisper to me. It's my first time coming to a place like this. I see. My strange impression of her might actually have been right, I thought. So that was why she looked so anxious. What am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to... Will you order like normal? What's normal? You order over there, pay for it, and pick it up. I stealthily pointed at the counter. My classmates had stopped in a random spot in the middle, waiting for us. It's the same as a bookstore or a convenience store. Have you been to any of those before? Obviously, I've been to places like that. Her voice sounded a little sulky now. She stuck out her bottom lip, which I thought was kind of cute. At the same time, I hadn't started coming to places like this until I started junior high either. I was probably just as nervous then. My classmates were backtracking to us now, having evidently gotten tired of waiting. We're just going to order all together. Are you okay with fries and a drink? Yeah, thank you. Yusuke-senpai, how about you? Yes, please. She nodded sheepishly. As I watched her overflowing with uncertainty, I ended up feeling a little embarrassed. I must have come off this way during my first time at the manju place too. Senpai checked in with me again in a hushed voice. French fries are just fried potatoes, right? Yeah, they are. It was difficult to hold back my laughter. Before long, she received her tray and stared at the counter as she muttered. So you pay first? Huh? Nothing. Pretending like nothing had happened, she took a seat. The 2 seats across from her were filled by my 2 classmates, so I ended up sitting next to her. I was the one who knew her best out of our group, though, so I guess that was how things would have turned out anyway. We had our school bags between us, as we sat side by side. After staring intently for a while at the fries that peeked out of her paper bag, she somewhat cautiously brought one to her lips. She nodded thoughtfully as she chewed, and after swallowing, murmured, "Well, the taste is quite normal." Which part isn't normal then? I wondered. Despite that, we started some friendly conversation. Or not. There wasn't much in common to talk about between me, my classmates, and our senpai. We couldn't even talk about homework with her around, since she was in a different grade. The only common topic that was left was the choir club, but most of us weren't even all that passionate about the club, so there wasn't much to talk about there either. Maybe things would pick up if we gossiped about the other members of the club, but there wasn't really any reason to talk about that. In the end, we naturally gravitated towards talking to the person who was next to us. My 2 classmates were friends, so they were happy to chat amongst themselves. And Senpai and I, well, I didn't know whether we were close enough for that, but it wasn't as though I couldn't talk to her. "Do you go out to places like this a lot, Sayaka-chan?" She was glancing around the place, her inexperience painfully obvious. "Not alone, no. And I don't really go out that much in the first place." So what do you do on your days off?" "Hard to say. They always seem to end before I know it. Since I had started reading books on the train to and from school, I didn't have much left to read on weekends." I picked at my fries, and she ate one too, as if following suit. Then she wiped her fingers on the paper. She must have been a stickler for cleanliness, since she always immediately wiped her fingers as soon as they got dirty. "You're not taking extracurricular lessons or anything, Sayaka-chan?" "I used to take a lot of them, but I'm just doing ikebana right now." "So you're working with flowers? Do you change into a kimono for that?" "No, not every time. The first flower arrangement of the year was probably the only time we wore kimono." "Oh, really?" She seemed disappointed as she put her lips to her straw. I didn't know why she would be, though. "So then, Sayaka-chan, are you—" She kept asking me all kinds of things about myself. It felt like I was being interrogated. I thought of several things I wanted to ask her too, but she never gave me a chance. Come to think of it, this might be the most we'd rather talk in one sitting. Until now, we had only seen each other at club, said hello to each other, and had a few passing conversations. "Are you doing okay on time, Seki-san?" My classmate considerately checked in with me. I took a glance at the restaurant's clock and answered, "I'm fine for now." "Oh, that's right," Senpai said, as if our exchange had just reminded her. "You go home by train, don't you, Sayaka-chan? That's so grown-up." "You think so?" Senpai certainly didn't look much like an adult, with the way she was grinning. "Once you get used to it, it's just tedious. You usually have to stand in the middle of a big crowd. I think that you saying it's tedious is what makes it so grown-up." "Is it?" I almost tilted my head at her. Even kids think tons of things are tedious. I certainly used to, at least. "Sometimes you seem so grown-up, Sayaka-chan." "Do I? Really?" "If you were the same age as me, I bet I could have relied on you even more." I laughed lightly, humoring her joke. But Senpai wasn't really laughing. "I wish we could have been in the same year. she lamented, in a delicate voice that seemed to disappear into nothing. I wonder what she would have called me if we really had been in the same grade. Though she acted casual, she was still a real third year. Her grade would retire from choir club before summer vacation. Just like the other clubs, it was tradition for the third years to leave early, since they couldn't participate in any future competitions. I would only see her in the music room for one more month. At the time, at least, my only thought was that the music room would feel a lot bigger when she was gone. As time went on, Senpai flooded me with more questions. Perhaps she was only quizzing me so much because we didn't have anything else to talk about. We didn't know much about each other to begin with, so we had to change that if we were going to have any deeper conversations. Senpai was the last to stand up, observing how we cleaned up after ourselves before doing the same. As I watched her imitate us, Senpai noticed my gaze and pouted slightly. What? No, it's nothing. I headed for the exit, smiling slightly. I hadn't gotten to ask Senpai about herself at all in the end, but I had seen her cuter side in action.